Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session Keynote Real Tools for Real People. Today on the panelists, we have Deborah Young. So I will just hand over the mic to you. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. And thank you to everyone for inviting me to be part of this fantastic global event today. So some of the things that I'm going to touch on is that I truly believe that RegTech is about people, that RegTech isn't fintech, and why does it get confused and what is it anyway? So I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to talk about the importance of developing a global language for RegTech to help make sense of it all, how I believe that ESG will be an enabler for RegTech. What does the data tell us about industries that can benefit from RegTech beyond financial services, and why government is absolutely critical and needs to get behind RegTech? And then finally, some really quick use case examples of RegTech being deployed outside of financial services. So let's get underway. So we start from the point of trust. But, you know, when we start out with a question of creating value, we can't create that value if there is no trust. And at its heart, we believe that RegTech is about bringing trust so that your customers, consumers, and even your mum and dad can interact in an environment that is trustworthy. Every interaction that we have with banks, energy companies, telecommunications companies, law firms, and so the list goes on, there is a presumption of trust. And technology needs to underscore and enable this trust, and RegTech can help build this as a standard. So the title of my presentation today is Real Tools for Real People, and I'd really like to underline this as a concept, the importance of getting fantastic tools to the terrific people that we have working in regulation and compliance today. Tools that will help them do a better job, surface risks earlier, and to create more transparent information and data flows, enabling more sustainable businesses and creating value for stakeholders and ultimately consumers. People in the street don't need to know what RegTech is, but as technology creators, it's incumbent upon us working in regulated ecosystems. It's critical that we get these great tools into place so that we can underscore that trust. Now, I've just talked in the previous slides about increased safety and confidence, but RegTech also brings productivity and efficiency and lowering of costs. And having access to these tools will help all of this. But what's useful is that we start with a definition of RegTech, and this may seem a little bit basic, but bear with me. We say that RegTech is short for regulatory technology, and it's the application of technologies to improve the way businesses manage regulation and compliance across all regulated industries. And that's an important point. And not only all regulated industries, but also we could probably extend out this definition to say to businesses of all shapes and sizes. So that is from small to medium businesses to large companies and also institutions. So what RegTech is, and I hope to unpack this a little bit, it's an enabler and an accelerator. It is not a disruptor. RegTech companies are usually founded by ex-industry practitioners with very, very deep industry experience. And RegTech can be sector agnostic in terms of how it's applied, which I've just alluded to. And RegTech is also technology agnostic in that it uses all forms of tech. But one of the things that RegTech is not, it is not fintech. And I'd like to unpack that a little bit. Financial services and fintechs are buyers and consumers of RegTech technology to improve the transparency, productivity, and safety of their product delivery to customers. So RegTech is an enabler. And of course, while financial services and fintechs remain core and key customers of RegTech, this should not be confused with it being fintech. These terms are often used interchangeably, but now as we are beginning to see government and other industries now being able to benefit from RegTech in a broader capacity, I think it's important that we make this distinction. I won't read out everything on this slide in the interest of time, but when I talk about the RegTech ecosystem, this is who I am referring to. And I've talked about the importance of a global language for RegTech. This is critically important. And so a number of years ago, we set about developing a taxonomy to make sense of it. And it is a risk-based taxonomy which helps categorize the different risk areas that are addressed by RegTech. And there's a number of other layers in our taxonomy, but one of those layers is functional role. So you can there see the risks that are addressed through RegTech and some of the functional roles of what the solutions actually do. And there's more of that is available on our directory if you're interested to go and have a look. I wanted to talk about why RegTech is absolutely critical for government. So government has two hats here with RegTech. One is a policymaker. We could argue that governments create the need for RegTech in the first place by being the lawmakers and the policymakers. But we can also see governments be a consumer of RegTech, because RegTech can help governments reduce red tape, get efficiencies to government services in things like wage and employment laws, digital identity, e-signatures, e-discovery, and so the list goes on. So governments are absolutely critical. We're also seeing some interesting movement on the investor front. The sales cycle is reduced considerably post-pandemic, which makes a shorter sales cycle makes this very attractive to investors. They are beginning to see this industry mature. And what RegTech can actually help is help with their ESG impact goals as our companies are well aligned with the E, S, and the G. And this is very important for investors. And on the point of E, S, and G, I believe that it will be an enabler of RegTech going forward. Environmental, social, and governance will become increasingly important. And we shouldn't think about ESG as yet another compliance program. We believe it's an enabler of new opportunities. Firstly, the primary customer base, and if we look at financial institutions, they've all developed goals and strategies around how they will need to meet the E, S, and G across their businesses. And as most RegTechs would be offering a solution that solves for either the E, S, or the G, this offers RegTech with an opportunity to not be selling software, but to be selling enablement solutions to help their customers meet their ESG goals. For RegTechs to understand their customers' commitment to ESG is going to be a really important part of their future approach. And it should be built in, otherwise you may miss out on that next deal. And don't be surprised if your customers, through their onboarding, will be asking you questions about your own commitment to ESG. What I'm really saying here is this offers you an opportunity to have a different style of conversation, and perhaps the influencers and decision makers within your customer base are different from those you traditionally approach. And thirdly, and perhaps most significantly, if you're about to raise capital, you'll need to assess your firm's commitment to ESG, because attracting capital will be contingent to you having your own program. Get used to this language and the terms, because this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And our organisation is about to launch an ESG education series to really help everybody unpack this fantastic opportunity. Super quickly, because I know we're running out of time. RegTech.
Just to let you know, you are left with 2 minutes to the end of session.
Oh, thank you very much. I've just had my reminder. The RegTech spend is going to be $204 billion US dollars in financial services alone by 2026. So I wanted to underscore that this is a really fantastic opportunity. I don't have time to go through everything on this next couple of slides, but what this is a buyer's viewpoint. And you can see that the motivators for them at the moment is the regulatory pressure, the digital transformations that are happening within their organizations, and the internal costs are increasing from a RegTech buyer's perspective. Also, you can also see some new industries emerging on the bottom left-hand side of that slide. Insurance, healthcare and community, information, media and telecommunications are the new industries to watch out for. And I suspect that government and the energy sector will also be included in the near future. From a RegTech vendor perspective, the future is looking rosy. There's lots of stuff on here, but we've still got to solve the challenge of procurement, which is still the single greatest barrier for everyone. Super quickly, here's some ideas and some use cases where applications by of RegTech outside of financial services. RegTech and the Barking Dogs. This is actually applications by local governments to manage and monitor complaints against barking dogs of all things, safeguarding at-risk families, end-to-end regulatory platform now being used by police services to develop a firearms registry is one example. Obviously, the use case of financial crime is well known to everybody. And there's also RegTech being used to identify significant data breaches. And so that's the Whistle Stop Tour. Here are our members, a shout out to them. Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully I finished on time, and I look forward to joining Doug and the others on the panel shortly. Thank you very much.